Hey guys, so every year since 2017, I've been doing an annual series of Superman reviews, and I decided to kick off 2023's series of Superman reviews with a review of the 1948 Superman serial. And I decided to do this review in my car because there's just too much noise going on in the house right now. But this was released in 15 parts in 1948 and was directed by Spencer Gordon Bennet and Thomas Carr. And this was the first live-action adaptation of the comic book character Superman, originally created by Jerry Siegel and Joe Shuster. Now, prior to this, you had the Fleischer Superman cartoons, but this was the first live-action appearance of this character. This predates even the George Reeves Superman. So, the first episode of this serial is about the downfall of Krypton and about Jor-El, Superman's biological father, trying to warn people of the planet's inevitable destruction. And the first episode is actually really well done. And it's kind of funny, all the parallels you could draw between the whole story of Jor-El trying to warn people about what's going to happen to Krypton and some real-life instances of politicians not listening to scientists. Like, you could draw a lot of parallels between the downfall of Krypton and stuff like climate change or pandemics, and I'm surprised more modern Superman stuff hasn't really touched on that much, at least as far as I know. And of course, Jor-El and his wife put their son Kal-El into a small ship and sent it to Earth so he could survive Krypton's destruction, and he's eventually taken in by a family called the Kents. And the serial actually does a pretty good job at establishing Clark Kent as a character and establishing his moral code and why he feels the need to take on the role of Superman. And Kirk Alyn is genuinely pretty likable and charming as both Clark Kent and Superman. But most of the serial is about Superman going up against a crime lord known as the Spider Lady, who is trying to get her hands on something called the Reducer Ray. But yeah, the 1948 Superman serial is honestly pretty fun. I mean, it's cheesy as hell, but that's to be expected for a 1940s serial that was generally intended for children. But if you are a fan of the Superman character and you want to see the first live-action iteration of this character, then you should really check this serial out. And for kids in the 1940s, I could totally see how this movie must have blew their minds. And the serial does some interesting things where whenever they show Superman flying, it's actually a cartoon. And I understand the reason they did that was because they did not actually have the budget to make it look like Kirk Alyn was flying. But at the same time, I actually think it's a pretty interesting visual. It also does this thing where whenever he says this looks like a job for Superman, it changes the voice when it says Superman. Like, it goes, this looks like a job for Superman! You also have Neill as Lois Lane and Tommy Bond as Jimmy Olsen, and both of them are pretty likable in these roles. But throughout the serial, you constantly see them get captured by the Spider Lady's men and having to get rescued by Superman, and it does get kind of repetitive after a while. But yeah, once again, I recommend the 1948 Superman serial. If you're a fan of this character and you're interested in the history of this character, you should check this out. Now, this had a sequel in 1950 called Atom Man vs. Superman, which I have on the same DVD set as this one, and I'm going to try to review Atom Man vs. Superman probably next year. Now, if it wasn't for this serial, it's hard to say if we would even have the George Reeves Superman, and Neill would actually reprise the role of Lois Lane in the second half of that series. You could also tell that this serial had an influence on the Richard Donner Superman movie. For example, both Kirk Alyn and Neill had cameos as Lois Lane's parents in the Richard Donner film. Now, the Spider Lady, the main villain of this serial, I believe was an original character created specifically for this serial, but she recently did appear in a Superman and Batman comic in, I believe, 2021. Obviously, this was a more modern iteration of this character. But yeah, that was my review on the 1948 Superman serial, and bye.